two worlds, public and private. While the extended family enjoys intimacy, we note that there's often a chasm between a husband and a wife. With the husband living in the public and the wife stays at home, it's as if the husband and wife live in two separate worlds. They struggle with relating to each other intimately because their worlds are so different. In some cultures, an honorable husband considers it below his dignity to express companionship and emotional intimacy with his wife, just to show interest in her. Now, the distant husband is not necessarily an angry husband. In fact, he can be quite benevolent. However, since he sees himself as superior and concerned with the public domain, to pay attention to the private domain would compromise his own strength and honor. So, in this way, the husband maintains his power and control over his wife. And so here we see that gender distinction becomes gender discrimination.
In some traditional African societies, men do not see the need to share their public life with their
Mhm.
wives. A man may decide to visit a relative or go on a business or medical trip without ever communicating his plans to his wife. He may be gone for days or even weeks. Since he has told a brother where he is going, he
Hmm.
does not even think of telling his wife. In some societies, a woman may find out where her husband is or has traveled to from the market gossip.
The garden view of marriage. In this traditional family perspective, a man must gain and maintain reputation and a good name in his network. And he does this through public deeds like courage, generosity, and compassion. But secondly, he also gains his honor through his seed, that is, his children, because they will continue his family name. And so then the purpose of marriage is to procreate sons who will continue their father's good name in society. The woman is seen as the garden whose body belongs to the man and whose primary function in life is to bear fruit, that is, to produce a son for her husband. Now, this understanding of sexuality and gender clarity has given stability and security for the family for centuries, although at the cost of countless girls whose dreams have vanished as they become victims of this so called family honor. In many African societies, due to the high price of dowries and the lack of teaching on sexual purity, it is common for couples to engage in sexual relations before marriage or outside of marriage. And so the pressure to maintain chastity does not hold true where sexual relations outside of marriage are accepted as a norm. Such practices have many negative health and social consequences, which only lead to more dysfunctional family life. In other words, we can conclude faithful monogamous relationships result in better quality of life.
The cry for intimacy. The irony of divided worlds between husband and wife is that both husband and wife actually crave for intimacy and companionship. We have lots of love stories in all cultures,
Yeah.
endless love poetry and love songs, ancient, medieval, and modern. The desire for intimate love, much more than sexual union, is universal. And so we have Valentine's Day. It is popular around the world. Are people just copying Western ways, or are they craving for deeper love? The question is,
Hmm.
how can this longing for intimacy be fulfilled in the marriage union? Can marriage and love come together so that husband and wives experience love and compassion between themselves?
Okay. Now, this reminds me years ago when I was a student in Pakistan, we were married at that time. And one of my classmates, he knew we were married. And he asked me, "Have you ever fallen in love?" I cracked up because, of course, I'd fallen in love. How could I have gotten married if I hadn't fallen in love? Now, in their world, those were two separate events. Partner abuse. Maybe we're tired of the constant refrain of sexism and misogyny the prejudice against women in the workforce, sexism at home, domestic abuse, and violence. But sadly, this remains true especially in patriarchal cultures. African sociologists Tijani Salami and Jane Otai, they say this: domestic violence is a silent scourge across Africa, and it will remain so until the cultural and legal norms that condone it have been rejected. In some places, church leaders, in response to such abuse, they actually just challenge the women and the mothers, and they say, you got to be better wives and mothers at home, as if they deserve this abuse. In Latin America, people talk about femicide, that is, killing women, not to mention of the ongoing physical and verbal abuse that millions of women face, often hidden and behind closed doors.
Our experience is with the Middle East and Central Asian cultures, where the reality of the suffering, abused wife and young girl is even worse. Many women remain in abusive marriages for the sake of their
Yeah.
children because, in most traditional patriarchal societies, the children belonged to the line of the husband. If she left the marriage, her children would remain with the abusive husband. And if the couple is related, the wife's family will force her to stay with the husband. In some Christian circles, the standard sermon at a wedding is addressed primarily to the wife, and it is, you must obey your husband.
Okay, let's stop for our next reflection and work through this activity.